Welcome to the Elevate Your Brand podcast, where we help online coaches learn how to elevate their brand, become the experts in their industries so they can bring in more clients and create a life they want. I am your host, Chris Anderson. And if you want to make a difference in the lives of others, share this episode, go over to Apple Podcasts and follow us there to leave a positive rating and review. And together we can leave a bigger positive mark on the world. We've had people talking about real estate. We've had people talking about investments, but this is a different take on it. So I'm really excited to dive into our conversation today with Amanda here. She's the CEO and founder of House Novel, and I can't wait for her to share a little bit more about that. I'll ruin it. I'll say the wrong words about it. But Amanda, welcome to Elevate Your Brand today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah. House Novel. So we're talking back before we started recording it. And from my perspective, I like history. I like antique house, family history, things like that. And House Novel, from what I saw and was looking at, almost reminded me of Ancestry DNA, except for the home. And maybe I'm a little off, but share with people what House Novel really is and what got you started with that project.
Yeah. So we always describe it as if Ancestry.com and Zillow had a baby, it would be House Novel. So we were really excited to start this business because before we noticed two main problems. One, that there's just so many amazing old photos in people's homes collecting dust. And then the other is there's just so many untold stories that just get lost and forgotten over time. Being that we love homes and their sentimental value, it's always something that we really wanted to create, but we didn't know how to do that. Prior, we were in commercial real estate. So my co-founder / husband and I were both in commercial real estate. And we definitely fall under the unintended founder, because when we were in commercial real estate, we love the big picture thinking and the innovation technology that goes into it, but we always gravitated as well towards the sentimental aspect of homes. So we wanted to be able to combine the best of both worlds and create something that was scalable and that we could save a piece of history about everyone's home. So House Novel was born, and what it does is it combines user-generated information. It can be photos, information, and documents on an interactive timeline. And then it also combines historical societies information and register of historic places along with everywhere else. And we wanted to aggregate all of that information on the interactive timeline so you can really track the full course of a home's history.
That's really awesome. So if I wanted to track our home's history, I would go on, create an account and put in the address, and it would pop up with some information that's already in the databases, public databases to start.
Yeah. So currently we have over 18,000 records nationally. And what you can do is if there is history on your home already, then you go in, you type your address, and then it'll pop up and you can add any information or stories that you do have. And if no information currently exists on it, it just says, hey, no information exists on this home yet. Do you want to add it? And then you just go in and you type some of the basic information and you can start your home's timeline.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And so backstory with my house, my grandparents built this house. And so like we've seen old photos and things like that. But we don't know like all the information of the things that grandpa did when he was building it. And so finding those little things here and there has been cool. But I always drive down, so I'm from Indy, down Meridian, down the central road that goes by the Capitol. And there's all these old, big homes that are lining that. So could I theoretically put in their address and just find out information about those homes as well?
Yeah, that's half the appeal that we wanted for it, is we didn't want it to just be someone looking for their next home. Or maybe it's just you're reflecting on your home's past or a cool home in your neighborhood and you just want to learn more about it. Yeah. So everyone can use it and anyone can add information. And so our idea behind that is you can just go in and search any address. And then if you want to favorite homes that you're particularly interested in following, then you can register and you can also track the homes that you've lived in. And so that way you can make sure to always have dashboard and you get notified anytime someone adds history to one of those homes.
That's awesome.
So we really see it as a gathering space for communities of people that come together just to say, we want to know more about the history of the homes in our area. And there's so many geocoded addresses that are just getting washed away, or you can even find old photos of communities way back when, and you would never even know that's how it existed. Or I'm in Minneapolis. Okay. And so just to know what Minneapolis looked like in the early 1900s versus today is crazy. And that's the idea behind it is we want to be able to get a glimpse into the past and see what was once there and have people be able to explore and also just have more transparency. Buying a home is one of the largest purchases that you make. So you want to know more about it. And there are so many stories where it is someone's grandparent or parent that's purchased the home and it's been in the family its whole life. And I just think homes live way beyond we do. So we're really just temporary caretakers of them. And it's awesome to journey through the past and into the future and see what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's really neat. And so with that, do you, and I don't know this, do you tie into, say, our house? I was on House Novel and our house went up for sale. Do people get notified if they're a part of that community on House Novel? Hey, this old house is for sale. Do you tie that aspect into things or no?
We didn't make it a specific if it's for sale or not. So if you wanted to get more information and someone was posting it for sale, you could favorite it and share it out. And then you could also put a note out there that it is for sale. But we really wanted to separate it from Zillow so that it's not just getting the attention when it is for sale. We want it to be all the time, or like in your family when you're coming together and you're all hanging out and looking through old photos of it to get more of that aspect of it.
That's pretty cool. So how long ago did this idea come about?
It happened during COVID.
Okay.
So we always say COVID was a great time for some self-reflection and kind of figuring it out. So I was reading The 4-Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferriss, one of my favorite reads. And my husband and I were just outlining, it looks like chaos notes of what are all the things that we're most passionate about. We've always had a sense that we wanted to be entrepreneurs, but we hadn't taken that leap forward yet. And so one of the main things that stood out was houses. And when we were going through it, we had all that downtime at our houses. So we were still working full time, but when your social life decreases and you can't leave your house, that is a great time to start a business.
Yeah.
And so we ended up doing the development. The development took 1.5 years. And what really nailed the idea home is when we went over to Dave's mom's house in St. Paul. And she had a home that she lost to foreclosure in the 2008 timeframe during the national mortgage foreclosure crisis. And so she has this picture of her old Victorian house that she had, and she glows telling stories about it. We were at a table and we were just going through a ton of old photos that she had, and she was just glowing, telling all these amazing stories. And we just thought to ourselves, it's such a shame that these are collecting dust in her basement and that so many people won't know all these incredible stories. And so when we were leaving her house, we were like, there has to be something that we can do. And that's when we started the development and the aggregation. And then we officially launched in February of this year. Awesome. So we're a new company, and even though the development took a long time, it's super exciting for us to be able to have a visual platform that people can see and start using.
Absolutely. That's awesome. And congrats on taking that step. That's the hardest part. I started my entrepreneurship journey in April 2020. So about the same time when COVID started. And it's been fantastic. A challenge, of course. But so with that, with your model, is it like a membership based type Ancestry DNA or Ancestry.com where you pay a certain amount to get access to more things? Is that kind of how you set it up, or is it different than that?
We set it up so anyone can explore homes for free, and you would have to register, which is also still free. So it's free for any user to input data to follow that home history. And then we have a SaaS model for advertisers that's geared towards real estate agents, really anyone in the real estate trades who wants to get ahead of the people that they feel are their target market that are also passionate about home history. And so we actually made a regional option. You can do regional, state, or national option to get in front of your direct target market. And we see the regional as being the most targeted because you can choose zip codes, 5 different zip codes that you feel you do the most business, and you can directly reach those end users in the area that you feel is most meaningful to your business and that you know the area the best.
Gotcha. So you're aiming more like kind of for sponsors, quote unquote, for a platform.
You love listening to podcasts, but have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? Maybe you want to build a brand, grow your business, or are looking for an excuse to talk about your favorite hobby. Whatever your reason for making a podcast, Buzzsprout is the place to start. Since 2009, Buzzsprout has helped over 300,000 people launch their own podcasts. Buzzsprout walks you step by step through the whole process and will give you powerful tools to start, grow, and monetize your podcast. Ready to get started? Click the link in the show notes to get our free step-by-step guide to starting your podcast today.
Yeah, we really believe that it's a great way for realtors to stand out and be able to easily find people in their specific geographical area that are interested in the types of house that they would be promoting and selling the most.
Okay.
And so we see it geared mostly towards real estate professionals who are also passionate about home history, who also believe in the power of data analytics and technology and being able to skip a step. And with so many people knowing a real estate professional in their network, it's important to be able to provide extra transparency in addition to what you can already find online. And so I think using a tool like House Novel to be really informed about the homes that they're trying to sell or help someone get into is really meaningful.
That's cool. That's awesome. And I think on Elevate Your Brand, obviously we speak to people who are just starting their journeys, even the planning process, and they may not know what steps to take or what's about to happen if they do take that leap. So what were some challenges just building out the idea in the last year or so before you actually were able to launch it this year?
Yeah, I've listened to a few of your episodes, and one of the things that always stands out and resonates with me the most is getting out of your own way. You're trained to have a certain mindset, and to break free of that and go on a different path. I always love that quote. You can't expect the same results with the same actions. That's just insanity. So it's breaking what's familiar to you and what comes natural to you and coming up with a new way of approaching everything. We were very much trained, stay in your lane and what you're really good at, and then excel in that. And we wanted to see the big picture of the business. That's one of the things that we're always most excited about, is having the visibility and the transparency to see all the components of what makes a true successful business come together.
Yeah.
And that's also the hardest, because you feel like an idiot a lot of the time and you don't know what you don't know.
Yep.
And so we're reading a ton of books, we're learning a ton of things, we're partnering with different contractors and professionals to learn as much as we can, but it's really a process of stumbling forward. I feel like that has been my biggest motto since starting a business, is be okay with not being perfect. Be okay with not knowing what you're doing next. Trust the process. Everyone started from somewhere, and you just got to learn as you go. And it's okay if you fumble your way through, because going from a corporate mentality to an entrepreneurship mentality, especially in the early struggle phase, it's a learning curve.
Yeah. Yes, it is, for sure. So you guys are still in your corporate role while you're building this, correct?
So I'm full-time House Novel, and then my husband still does some commercial real estate as we start to propel up.
That's awesome. Sometimes it's hard to get that balance, starting out, that harmony, I guess, not necessarily any balance, but the harmony between everything, starting something new with your previous or your current job and family. So how did you find that harmony with a whole new endeavor thrown in there into your lifestyle? Once things started opening back up, how did you go about getting that harmony?
I would say we didn't find harmony. It was like a disruptor in our own life, and it was the best thing that you could have happen. I think if we had just tested the waters and not gone fully in, we needed one of us to go fully in.
Yeah.
So we knew that I needed to work full time on it, and we needed to take the time to come up with a plan that would mitigate some of the risk. But I think jumping in and being a disruptor in our own life and not finding that harmony was the best thing we could do to force ourselves to go all in. I think if we had both been part-time, it would have been hard to break free of the mentality that you need to get into entrepreneurship. And I would have dabbled in it, but I would have played it safe.
Yeah.
And I think not playing it safe is the number one thing that I've done to propel any step forward.
Yeah, that's great. A great perspective too. Cause when I started, I just quit my job. I quit my job with nothing. Business wasn't even started really.
You're like, let's hope for the best because we're free falling right now.
Burn the boats and we're going to make it up as we go. And we're going to figure it out. And it's a crazy journey. And what are some things that you see, maybe even recently, that you've, struggles, whatever word, obstacles, whatever word we want to put on it, that you guys have been working through, or that you had maybe just overcome something? You're like, oh my goodness, finally, that's cool. It's because it happens in entrepreneurship. Like, you're going to always have obstacles. You're always going to have something in the way, new levels, new devils type thing. So what are you guys dealing with right now, and how are you working through those?
I think the biggest thing we're working through right now is that growth period and what that looks like. So when you first start out, there's a million different things that you want to do, and you hear different approaches, and there's no one way to success. You hear a lot of different opposing viewpoints. And so you really have to trust your gut in moving forward, but do it in a way that is going to work best for your business while not getting in your own way. Well, for example, I think as we want to grow, we've started taking on contractors or employees. But we're trying to figure out what is the best way. Is it waiting for the sales and lagging behind the sales? Or is it going all in and trusting in the process and doing it before you start obtaining a certain amount of revenue? And then another thing I think is going for the 20 different initiatives you want versus zooming in on, okay, we need 2 main objectives and we need to check them off on the list. And we need to be ruthlessly attentive towards checking those off the list. But you become just like this little ADD monster, and you want to just go after 30 different things that you're like, will this be the make or break? And it's just funny because when you're going all in entrepreneurship, you're like the social media person, you're the communications person, you're the process person, you're the accountant person, you're the outsourcing person, and then you're also the salesperson. And chances are, previously, before being an entrepreneur, we've all focused in on one of those areas.
Right.
So you're just sitting there and you have all of these amazing ideas. I just have a million notebooks just scribbled of insanity, and you just want to come up with a process, but it's hard to stay focused and stay focused long-term towards making your biggest goals.
Yeah, I think that's crucial. And there's so many shiny objects out there. It's navigating those waters to figure out, like what you said, what's going to work, like what's the path you guys need to take, what fits for you, and not get distracted by everything else. Because when you start, you're doing everything, most likely, of course, unless you have funds or whatever. But most of us started bootstrapping and doing it all. And like how Elevate's grown now, where it's like we outsource and we have people doing some of the technical things, but it's like, okay, how do we need to bring on someone new, or do we need to just like where to invest now to scale properly and to scale at the correct time frame? Because you do it too fast, then you lose that profit margin. But if you don't do it fast enough, you're hindering yourself. So it's just, I think, picking those certain things and make sure you get them done, because like you said, there is so much. And I just talked about the other day, if you try to focus on it all, if you go into the day like, I have this and this and this and this and this to do, you just get so overstimulated and overwhelmed with it, where if you say, okay, today, this is the top goal, what I need to do to get that top goal done, these 3 things, okay, focus on those. I think it really moves the needle forward, at least in my perspective.
And it's tricky because when you start a business, you hear all these amazing things like, just follow your passion and everything else will fall into place. But the reality of the situation is, to follow your passion, there's a lot of things that you would have typically cut or outsourced or ignored. But when you're bootstrapping it, you've got to learn those things to do the things that you want to do. But so some days you're spending a whole day doing something you're like, this was not the dream, this was not the passion, and this is not about old homes at all. But
not sign up for this part, but
you would just have to kind of work that and trust the process to get to the things that you love. I always loved that in Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. He was like, I've always loved real estate, but I knew that to get to investing in real estate, I needed to accumulate money through sales and do these things and these things. So I think looking long-term to make, or I should say maybe like putting off the things you want most right now for the things you want most long-term is one of the ways that I try to keep myself in line and in check and resilient.
No, absolutely. Because it can get just strenuous and tiring and frustrating. That's just part of it. But you can, 2 things, I think, what you said there is like, think of and remember what you want long-term, like what's the ultimate goal? This is why I'm doing it. But also what I've noticed recently too, which has helped me just where I'm at, is looking back, April 2020, nothing coming in, no idea what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to get to $1,000 a month. And I was like, okay, that'd be great just to start.
Trick the brain. You're just like, just this little nugget, give me something.
Yeah. And so now looking back, like we're doing 7-8K a month. And like, I get myself thinking, man, if I was just at 10 to 15K a month, but then I took a step back. I'm like, but look where you were a year ago and where you've come. Like, that's huge. That's awesome. Like, just keep going. And then, a year from now, you're going to look back and say, that's where you were. Cause now I'm thinking, I wish I was at the next level. So like remembering everything you've come through, even in a short amount of time, to just continue to give you that, like, hey, we've done this so far. We've made it through the worst days we've had so far that we thought were the worst or the end of all. So keep moving forward.
Yeah, I like that you say that, because sometimes it just feels like you're spinning your wheels. And I think that one of the things we enjoy doing when we do feel like that is we look through what's happened the past year and all of the steps that we've made it through. And then it just realigns your mind. You're like, no, we're making progress.
Yes.
And I always love when people say, when you make it that next step, you've just created a new problem.
Yeah.
And that's always such a blessing, because you're just like, okay, great. Now I'm facing this new problem because we have made another milestone.
Yep.
And so I always love coming across the new problems when it means that we've really made it somewhere and we've achieved some kind of progress on the long-term goal that we want. I almost think that's a small piece of satisfaction in itself, is creating new, better, more exciting problems for yourself.
Yeah. It's like, I heard a quote the other day and he said, the person who enjoys the walk will walk farther than the person who enjoys the destination. And he's basically, you've got to love the failures. You've got to love the lessons. You've got to love the times you get things good happening. You've got to love the whole journey, because you're going to go so much farther because you have that motivation. And it's just like what you just said is so true. Like, you have this new problem and it's a blessing, because that means you've improved, you've grown, your business has grown, and now you have to worry about more accounting stuff or number stuff or whatever it is. And I think the mindset is a big part of it.
Yeah, because you are that 3 feet away from gold. And so if you're just thinking about gold at the end of the tunnel, it's just not enough to get you through those hard days where you don't know if you are doing the right thing. And every day is different. You're like, something clicks and you think, I know it all. And I've figured it out. I've come so far. And then other days where you're like, what does that even mean? And so I think it's always valuable to put it in perspective and think of the journey. And like you said, the walk along the way. And I don't think anyone can learn more about themselves as they do through an entrepreneurship process. I feel like I've learned more about myself since starting this than my entire life before.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think my mindset and just how I see myself and other people has just changed tremendously. I think for the better. I think it's made me build more confidence in areas that I didn't realize I was lacking in, and just done so much good. It doesn't mean it's been easy. It's definitely a hard journey. We're not saying it's going to be a walk in the park, guys, if you're trying to start a business.
The harder, the better, though.
Yeah, it's worth it. It's just like working out. Like, if you want to get stronger, if you want to build muscle, like, you're going to have to go through some rough lifts, some heavy weights. And it's going to suck and it's going to hurt and you're going to be sore for a while after when you're not used to it, but you're growing and you get stronger, and then it's easy. That becomes easy. That weight becomes easy. You got to get to the next amount of weight, and it's hard again. And it's an ongoing process like that. I know it should never end, really, because we should always be growing and changing and getting to that next level.
Because the business muscles really are the best muscles.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's awesome. Again, like, you planned for a year or so and started and launched it this early this year. And it's so cool to just see people taking their ideas and that's what I love. That's why I love talking to people about them. You saw this, you had an idea and a passion around it, and you made it reality and are working to grow. So where do you see it going? What are your goals we're in Q3 of 2022 right now, or Q4, excuse me. Yeah. Do you have the top 3 for this quarter that you're aiming to get done? And
yeah, for this quarter, the big thing is really focusing on our advertiser portal. So I feel like we've really focused in on creating awareness, credibility, and gaining as much information as possible for all the home history that we can get our hands on. And now that that's up and running and gaining traction and people are inputting their information, we want to make sure we provide the best possible service for our advertisers. And so really figuring out what that looks like and if there's any revisions that we want to make into our sales funnel or how we approach it and making sure we have the best product market fit. I think really the research and development side of that will be the primary goal for us. We have it already created and formulated, but I think the biggest way to learn for any business and ensuring that you have a quality product that will be the best service for any user long-term is hearing from them. So I don't want to be the type of person in a back room that's assuming I know what people want and what their needs are, and then just creating and developing. I want to make sure that we're including as many realtors in that development process as possible and hearing what they need, what are their pain points, what makes their life hard. So I would say doing as many presentations, trials, and research and development opportunities with our target market is going to be first and foremost our priority. And long-term, our goal really is to save a piece of history about every house in the United States. And we won't stop until we get there.
That's awesome.
We always say if you have a house that's a day old, it has history and we want to know about it. Because someday that house is going to be old too. And you want to know the researcher or you want to know the person that built the home, designed the home, the architect, anyone involved. If you built it from scratch for your own family, what are the types of things that you had in mind and just the memories there?
Yeah. Because you talk to people that are older than us, and my dad even still talks about like his homes, the homes he grew up in and lived in. He's like, oh yeah, like we did that there, or this happened there to us, and like all those memories just come flooding back because of it. And so yeah, I think like you said, even a day old, like those memories are going to be there for someone eventually.
Right.
Grandkids are like, yeah, I remember running around there a holiday time or whatever it is. And so I think that's a really cool thing you guys are doing. As we round out, so you're early on in your journey, and we've talked about a lot that people can take and implement and start improving their journeys even from it. But what would be maybe one piece of advice, word of wisdom, or something that you would leave the audience with today?
I would say if you're not pushing yourself and being vulnerable and being okay with looking stupid, you're not pushing yourself enough. I think if you're feeling like you know everything, then you're in your comfort zone. And the best thing you can do for yourself is saying, I want to learn what's out there and I don't know what's out there, and take the time to just dive in and be okay with that. Not being a perfectionist is the best thing I've ever learned in business.
Yeah, 100%. That's awesome advice. So everyone, make sure you take that to heart and think about it on your journey. Push yourself, get out there, get uncomfortable. And Amanda, we appreciate you being on Elevate Your Brand today, sharing all about House Novel and how you guys started and overcome obstacles and how you're continuing to grow. So we appreciate all, that you shared today.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you taking an interest in House Novel.
Absolutely. Yeah. And guys, make sure you check it out. Go get connected with Amanda. She's on LinkedIn, I know for sure. House Novel. Where else can they find you, Amanda?
You can reach me on my email, amanda.zielke, ZIELIKE @housenovel.com. We also have an Instagram account. That's just @housenovel handle, and check me out on LinkedIn as well.
Awesome. Yeah. So make sure you do that, guys, and start learning about all the historical homes, all the homes with their history out there. And thanks again, Amanda.
Appreciate it, Chris.
And thanks so much for tuning into this episode today. If you found value at all from this episode, please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It just helps us get this show, these messages out in front of more people. And don't forget to share this with someone who you think could benefit from listening to as well.